The people of Denbigh had been united during the war by a common cause. When it ended, there was a strong feeling of Britishness, and there was great celebration during the coronation of 1953.
We did a fancy dress in our estate, and a couple of the children acted as the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. We went to the town hall, and we had the ceremony there of the crowning.
In the 1950s, it was time for fun again, and there was particular interest when the circus came to town.
I was in school, and the elephants came, well, the whole circus came by train, and most of the children in the school decided to go down to the train station to see the elephants and follow them uptown. And we didn't go back to school. And the headmistress wasn't particularly happy about that. Yeah, well, some of you don't see elephants in Denbigh as usual, do you?
It was an exciting time in farming as well. Farmers enjoyed new harvests with the opening of a creamery at nearby Llandyrnog, and the animal mart was as busy as ever.
That was the only place we could sell our fat stock and dairy stock, all sorts of stock, if you like. It was just a way of farming. The men would come to the market, bring their wives with them, and leave their wives go around Denbigh shopping. The farmers would get the money, and the wives would go and spend it away.
And there were plenty of new things to spend the money on. A large modern garage was built near the animal mart, and opening day created quite a stir.
It was quite a do. We had cars in, new cars in, we had caravans in, and we had Freddie Dixon Racing Riley in, that was there, on show. We had crowds of people coming, looking around, that was the main thing. It was very interesting.
Denbigh was booming as a shopping centre as well. There were all kinds of newfangled appliances for sale. But Peter Thomas, who ran a clothes shop, still remembers some old-fashioned material.
Things like Welsh flannel drawers, Welsh flannel vests, because some of the agricultural community still use those during the winter months. Directory knickers made from winseyette. There were ETBs, elastic top and bottoms, or passion killers. I suppose they would come down to the knees. They were quite lengthy bloomers, if you like.
The 60s was a time of change in Denbigh. Many old structures came down. The cockpit was dismantled and moved to the Welsh Folk Museum at St Fagans in Cardiff. There were some gentry families still around, but the days of the shooting parties were well over. Even the town's railway fell victim to Beeching's axe. But much of the old Denbigh remained. Howell's School was still as busy as ever, with new generations of pupils. And there was even new building, as a new Welsh language primary school, Ysgol Twmwr Nant, started a slow fight back for Welsh in Denbigh. Another bastion of Welshness, Gwasg G, was still a hive of activity in the town centre.
The noise was quite bad, really, because there was one electric motor running a pulley system, and there would be about 4 machines worked off this by pulleys, and the pulleys would be working continually.
Gwasg G now concentrated on book publishing and became one of the most important publishers of contemporary Welsh novels.
There were various authors, and you know, Saunders Lewis's Blodeuwedd, Tom Levin Williams's Ymchwil was another one, Williams Parry, I.D. Hewson, Claddock Pritchard, Ian Nos Olalead. The list is endless, really.
The North Wales Hospital was still the town's major employer, but arriving there for a job interview was a daunting task.
the fear, if you like, going up the drive to the front steps. The size of the place, it was enormous. But there, once you were in and you, like I say, I was interviewed and yes, I was accepted and I started as a cadet nurse there, and you soon got used to the way of life inside there because it was totally different to what you thought it was.
But during the 60s, there were new ideas emerging on how to treat mental health patients. Many believed that institutions were outdated and that the emphasis should now be on reintegrating patients into the community.
The medications became far more effective, but also, along with that, there were lots of different psychological treatments starting to be used. And the combination, plus the fact that they started to appoint staff in the community to support people with mental illness, meant that more and more people were able to come in for shorter periods of time and be discharged a lot more quickly.
During the 70s, bed numbers at the hospital dropped dramatically. The cold wind of unemployment blew over Denbigh as less and less people were needed to work at the hospital. In an attempt to find new jobs for people, an industrial estate was built on the site of the old railway station. Many of the factories there provided a completely new career.
Well, people were very excited about it because of there's work in the area, really, you know. And we were one of the biggest employers at that time. This type of thing, what we were producing, like the therapeutic chairs and portable equipment, no one's ever seen it, and it was very exciting because nobody ever seen anything like this before.
But the economic decline of Denbigh continued apace throughout the 80s. The animal mart was closed and moved to Ruthin, leaving a gaping hole in the centre of town.
When they decided to shut the Denbigh market, it was quite a shock to the system. The farmers had been supporting the Denbigh shops over the years, and it came as quite a blow to the town of Denbigh when they decided to shut the market.
The TB hospital had already closed, and the eventual shutting of the North Wales hospital in the early 90s was a huge blow.
The economy of Denbigh was absolutely shattered by the closure because not only did the people who worked there spend money in the town, patients spent money in the town, their visitors spent money, and so really it was a huge part of the economy of Denbigh.
Many new supermarkets were built in the town, including one on the site of the old animal mart. But the economic decline of Denbigh was mirrored in the sudden emptiness of town centre shopping.
It's a shame the variety of shops is poor in comparison to what it was when I was in business. You can't buy a man's suit here. And I don't think you can buy a decent pair of shoes here because there's no shoe shop.
Culturally as well, Denbigh has been impoverished. The closure of Gwasg G marked the end of an era and brought to an end a long and distinguished tradition of printing.
People knew where Gwasg G was, didn't they? Do you know what I mean? Doesn't matter what part of Wales you were in. Gwasg G, oh, that's in Denbigh, isn't it? There was a bit of Denbigh gone, didn't it? You know, and a bit of Welsh history as well. Because it was the first, I believe, the first printing office in Wales, or at least the longest running, you know, continuously running printing establishment anyway.
The Welsh language was given a boost with the 2001 Eisteddfod and with the opening of a new Welsh language centre in the old reading rooms. But Denbigh is still culturally divided. Howells might symbolise an old Denbigh tradition of Britishness, but it's one of the few Denbigh institutions still standing after 100 years.
I think probably it's one of the biggest, I won't say the biggest, but it's one of the biggest employers of people in Denbigh. There's a whole ethos of the school, which is a continuity in the district and in the locality and amongst people who want independent education for their daughters.
Denbigh is still a historic and beautiful medieval town. Many feel that although the town has lost much of its past, its historical traditions might offer a route to future prosperity.
Denbigh can now escape from the restrictions of its traditions and embrace a new future. Its rich past offers much scope for tourism, and there is talk of a museum of printing and a museum to commemorate the town's distinguished contribution to mental health.
As part of the series, we're running a competition offering a fantastic annual family pass to all National Trust properties in Wales. Just answer the following question. Where is the National Library of Wales? Is it in A, Aberaeron, B, Aberystwyth, or C, Aberdare? Please call with your answer 090 1133 1101 or text Century, then A, B or C to 63334. Calls cost 50p, texts cost 50p plus your standard network rate. The winner will be announced at the end of the series.